So a few weeks ago, I rented a Tesla Cybertruck. And I got to tell you, I loved everything about it. Every feature, the navigation, the feel, the self-driving, amazing. But what I didn't fully understand going into the experience is really how politically charged Tesla and Elon Musk has become. You know, whether you like him or hate him, people have some very strong feelings, and apparently those same feelings about anybody that drives a Tesla car. And over the 3-week stretch that I had the truck, I got flipped off not less than 5 times, just driving around. Not because I cut anybody off, not because I was driving like a jerk, literally because I was driving a Tesla Cybertruck, and somebody apparently wanted to make a point about how they felt, apparently about Elon Musk. And to me, that's wild. That's absolutely wild. But there's a moment that stuck with me. I'm driving home one day with my son. We live at the end of a cul-de-sac. I'm about one house away from my driveway, one. And there's this car I see coming toward me on the other side of the street, and I notice the driver has his hand out the window as he's about to pass me, and I think he's gonna wave or something. I'm not really paying attention. So instinctively my brain goes, oh, and so start to wave back. And as the cars get closer, I notice he's not waving. His arm is actually fully extended out the window, and he's giving me the finger. And he's not even looking at me. It's like one of these things. He's like, get his finger out here, give me the finger, and he's looking straight ahead like this, so like literally right in my face. Like he wants to put an exclamation point on it. Like, I'm flipping you off, and I don't even need to look at you. Right outside my house. Amazing. Let that sink in for a moment. You know, someone right basically in your living room, not out in the highway, not in the middle of traffic. Incredible. Because that's what it felt to me. This wasn't public space anymore. This was my space. And I'll be honest, my first impulse was not calm. My first impulse was to get back in the car, chase this kid down, drag him out of the car, that kind of thing. And it's one of those things too where I didn't really realize what happened until I got into my own driveway. I'm like, oh my God, that kid just flipped me off in front of my house. And also, if that kid was 20 years old, that would have been too old. That's how young he looked to me. And later, I'm recounting the story to a friend of mine, and she asked me, she's like, well, what did you do? And I said, well, nothing. And she said, well, what was your first instinct? And I said, well, and I told her. And she said, yeah, that's pretty crazy, but I get it. And then, I started thinking about where I grew up in South Portland, Maine, working class neighborhood, no big deal. I tried to imagine, though, myself 35 years ago, being a teenager, and the thought of driving past a guy in front of his house, an adult, and flipping him off in front of his own driveway. I mean, honestly, I'm like, what do I think would have happened to me then if I did that? Especially, I went and looked back at the Ring camera and realized that the car, this guy came from across the street. So it wasn't somebody that lived there, but a friend of one of the kids that lived there. And I get it, times have changed, but most importantly, something else was happening, something else internal that I realized. Because after all of that, after all the emotion, my friend said something to me that really stopped me cold. She said, where you put your attention gives power to the thing that you're focusing on, positive or negative, like it or not. And I thought about that. I'm like, damn, she's right. The moment I gave this kid his ridiculous actions, right, my attention, I give him power. The moment I replayed it in my head, I gave it more power. The moment I started imagining for a moment chasing him down the street, I gave that more power. And that's exactly the type of thing that connects to what we do every day as financial advisors. Because every single day, clients walk into conversations with us carrying fear, carrying anxiety, and they're worried about the right now. They're worried about today's market, this week's pullback, whatever the calamity of the moment happens to be. And what do we preach? Well, we preach we do not time the market. We do not forecast the economy. We do not pretend to know what's going to happen, say, next week. Those aren't marketing lines, those are our principles. But I realize this uncomfortable truth. The second that we allow a client's attention to stay fixed to the here and now panic, we are violating our own principles. Because now the next question becomes, what should we protect, or what should we do to protect ourselves from X? And if we indulge in that question, even subtly, we are giving power to something that we've already said doesn't matter for the best long-term outcomes. Think about that. We are literally handing over the keys of their financial car to emotion, and that's not leadership. And here's where the word courage matters. It takes courage to take control of the agenda in a meeting. And yes, I'm going to use that phrase, control the agenda, because that's exactly what it is. And if that makes you uncomfortable, well, good. We need to sit with that for a little while. Because if we're going, or if we're not feeling well, for example, and we're going to the doctor, do you want the doctor controlling the agenda? Or do you want the doctor chasing every half-baked theory you may have Googled at 2 p.m. the previous morning? Of course, you want the doctor to lead, right? We're not the you're not a doctor, you're not the expert. We're no different. Our responsibility is focus, and focus is hard, especially when a client is emotional, understandably so, when the headlines are loud, when the insecurity creeps in, and we're tempted to, we just want to meet them where they are, and instead of leading them where they need to go. Because the line that we can't escape, where we allow a client to put their attention, becomes more powerful in their life. If we let them focus on fear, if we indulge, fear grows. If we let them focus on the short-term noise, the noise grows. If we let them focus on things that do not contribute to the optimal or do not contribute to the optimal outcome for their long-term financial future, shame on us. Just like I had to pull my attention away from that kid because it or he didn't deserve my energy. That's the same thing that we need to do for the people who trust us with their financial lives. That's the job. It's not to be liked, not to soothe every emotion, not to react, to lead. And leadership requires courage. So be relentless about where your attention goes. Have a great week. Thank you.